صل على سيدنا ومولانا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. أما بعد. Alhamdulillah, it is with great honor that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala selects us to be in His house, in His remembrance, in His thought. Obviously, sometimes we can be sidetracked, as we discussed last week, by the shaitan and by the nafs, as to our intention can sometimes be corrupted very easily and very quickly. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us the tools through the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the wisdom to overcome the trials and tribulations that many of us will be suffering from. So obviously, when you hear in the modern world and in these times, a lot of the things is a number game. We determine our wealth with a number. We determine success with a number. How many people attend the gathering, we base that on a number. How many followers you have, how many friends you have, it's all how many friends do you have, how much knowledge do you have, meaning how much books do you know, how much surah have you memorized for a hafiz, how many years have you lived, these kind of things. Everything seems to be based upon a number, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has not determined anything through numbers. Never. You will see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in the numbers that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chooses, there is immense wisdom and knowledge. And in the time of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, we like to use this example because it is applicable, that in them times, at the time of the Prophet ﷺ, the Muslims were only very few in number anyway. There was only maybe a few thousand. And in the beginning, obviously a few hundred. A majority of the people rejected the Prophet ﷺ at that time, despite them knowing about the qualities of the Prophet ﷺ. So the Jews would obviously acknowledge the humility, the truthfulness, the piety, the purity, the knowledge of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Everything these non-Muslims and the Jews and the Christians and the Munafiqeen at that time and the Quraysh would know of the sifat of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So that is why when someone will ask, do you not find it difficult to do a bayan in front of few people? No, because that means I know and can make sure that them people who come benefit. If there's a crowd if there's a crowd, then what happens is you have to go through a procedure. So you're pleasing one group, then you maybe pleasing another group, and then you're pleasing another group. So that means the bayan can be split into subcategories. So some things, it's like the Mashayikh once gave an example and said that when the nasiha is being delivered, imagine it as you're on a journey, a collective journey. Now we're on a coach or a train, and better example would be a coach. So what happens is, on that journey, some people may need to eat, some people will need to relieve themselves, some people have toiletry needs. So the mashayikh will then accommodate for those needs, so they will be stopping along the journey. But the important thing is that they actually reach the destination. They get to the end of the destination. Otherwise, it's as though a person has not succeeded in terms of their presence in the gathering, meaning that when a person attends, if they have not attained anything, and the only way you can attain is, like our brother mentioned here, is irada and intention. If a person just comes and says, I'm just here for the sake of my mom or dad or my brother or sister, I've just come because I'm bored, and then he will be rewarded according to this intention. He will get that intention. If he comes for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, inshallah al-aziz, he will reach that. He will attain this. So it is very important that we rectify ourselves. How long is a person going to live for? How long is a person going to be in this worldly life? Does a person want to go back and say, I spent my life people pleasing, I spent my life feeding the society and giving into societal norms and culture? Or when you die, can you not have the ability to say that I came and I submitted my will to you, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and I've practiced and followed the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, and I sat at the feet of the mashayikh and pious and righteous people, and I benefited from them. So that is why age and these things, yes, sometimes with age does come wisdom and if different things, different life experiences, but we should never ever look at numbers. You should be, we call it, Ya lazina anfusikum, Ya lazina amanu quha anfusikum wa ahlikum nara. All those of you who believe, save yourself, quha anfusikum wa ahlikum, and your family, and nara, from the fire. One should not be concerned about what is the general person going to be doing, what is the normal person going to be doing. One should be, first thing is, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Ya lazina amanu quha anfusikum, that oneself. Who is this oneself? Me. Me, my spirit, my body, mind, heart and soul. I need to save myself. Wa ahlikum, and your family. An-nara, the fire. Save yourself and your family from the fire. Many a times we will think that, okay, I save myself, I've saved my family, then baad which comes the rest of mankind. In a systematical order, town, locality, county, country, continent, world, etc. First thing is one's own immediate family, then afterwards comes the rest of the world and mankind. So if you as a man, obviously many of us are families and are at home, one should ask themselves, first thing is, am I saving myself? Secondly, am I saving myself and saving my family? Because we won't know we're saved and we won't know they're saved until obviously after death. But as long as a person tries with a sincere will and determination, his efforts will not go to waste. In some way you will be remembered. You see, I can narrate you a story. One time there was a pious father, and he had many children, maybe like 8, 9, 10 children. And every day the father would remind his children, oh, pray your salah. Putter, pray your salah. Don't miss your salah. So they overlooked their father and said, oh, he's just our dad, he's gonna say anyway, he cares about us like this, so we're just gonna ignore him. One day, the father, he fell sick and he couldn't talk. And because frequently he was reminding his children, pray your salah, be good to people, be nice to people, the father, he had no energy or power to talk. So the son was asking him that, oh, father, we miss your voice, we miss you telling us off, we miss you complimenting us, looking after us. And then the father, he replied with whatever energy Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave to him, and he said that, I do not know how many words remain on my tongue, but I fear that I don't have enough energy to say the words La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah. He said, I fear this. And then he stopped talking again. And so the son, he went home and he told his brothers, oh, our father is not in a good way, he's not in a good state. So then in the night, he had a dream or something, a pious man came to him, an angel or something came to this person in his dream, his son. And he said, oh son, your father cannot speak, so I will speak for him. And the angel told him that your father does not have long left to survive. But what would please him is if you listen to what he is saying for you to do. So he woke up and he went to his father, and he performed ablution to his father, and his father, being in a weak state, got up and prayed his salah. And he said to his father, being in your weak state, he said, I would like you to lead me in prayer. And what happened was his father agreed. He recovered a little bit of energy and health. And what happened was, when his father was in ruku, he struggled to get up, and then he, as though, collapsed into sujood position. I mean, his legs could not bear the weight of his body. And his father passed away in sujood, leading his son in prayer. So then his son was like, I don't know what to do now. I don't know, should I get up? Like, he could sense that his father's passed away. I mean, the sujood was like prolonged. It was just maybe 15-20 minutes in sujood. And all he could hear was the angels rejoicing on his father. He heard this noise, meaning the angels like applauding his father. He's calling him by good names, and how the angels would welcome a person into paradise. And he welcomed his father. And he heard this noise. And the angel said to him that he heard the angel say to his father that if your son does not follow in your footsteps, then he will not be saved. We cannot rejoice for him. So what is he saying? The ultimate meaning and lesson is that when a person is following the path of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, you are role models to others. And people are, especially a person, his father, obviously we have our honorable uncle Wahid here, and we, inshallah, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us to benefit from them, especially your own blessed son who has attended. And we all pray and hope that we spend time with our elders and pious people. Who knows when time will come to an end? And this comes from the famous, there was a saying by one of our mashayikh, and it said that when you give a man a fish, he will eat for a day. And when you teach a man to fish, he will eat for his life. So what is it saying is that you should be teaching and being a role model to others, because people will benefit for their life. Like if I say to you, here's the key, so anyone comes to you and says, here's a shortcut, I'll give you, if someone comes to you, we'll use this example, if someone tells you now, I'll give you £1 million, you don't have to work for the rest of your life. You don't have to work for the rest of your life. We'll snatch his hand off. And another example is, you can say, if someone says, okay, I'll give you your month's wage. I'll give you a month's wage. Let's lessen it here. I'll give you a month's wage. And he says to you, okay, I'll take the month's wage. I can have 30 days rest. And in this 30 days, he loses his job and he can't find a job. What about after them 30 days? So what is the ultimate lesson here is, meaning be a source of light and comfort to others. Be a source of benefit. Be a source of light to others. Because if you are not benefiting others, they will sit in your sohbah and benefit for moments and not permanently. And they will not know how to benefit either. Hence why you will hear many a times we talk about intention, etiquette. Why? Is because it is so important. How will you sit in the presence of the Prophet ﷺ? How will you sit in the presence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? How will you behave? This time will come, whether in this life or the next. How will you sit in the presence of the pious and righteous? Are you just going to sit there acting like you don't know? This is be'adabi. Sahaba who accepted Islam newly, they would look at the Khulafa Rashidin. How would they sit with the Prophet ﷺ? How would they pray? And they would copy. And then they would understand afterwards why I need to pray in a certain manner. It all came from observation and learning. And that is what we are doing. We are looking at a role model. In this life, obviously, a person has a mashayikh and teacher to show them the way. But in them times, it was the Prophet ﷺ. We have a guide and a role model. And we see them and we copy them. Because this is safer for your iman. Because me or ourselves, we don't really know the path. We don't know how to sit with the Prophet ﷺ, how to behave with the Prophet ﷺ. Maybe just the way we are dressed is be'adabi. Maybe just the way we look and stare. Like if you see the Prophet ﷺ, many of the companions, they would lower their eyes in shyness and haya. What are we doing when we sit in the presence of Isha? We're staring at the face. Even in the sunnah is to stare from the lower lip to the chin. That is the sunnah. If you are to look at to someone, you never look directly into the eyes. Never ever. This is how the Sahaba were. Imagine we look at, we're so in awe of their beauty. Alhamdulillah, yes, it's a good thing if a person wants to observe and look. But like when the Prophet would glance one way, then everyone on the right would stare at them. And when they would turn to the right, the people on the right would lower their eyes and people on the left would have a chance to look. So it would never be like a direct, obviously sometimes eyes would catch. Imagine that connection of eyes with the Prophet ﷺ. And they would quickly lower their glance. Imagine this is muhabbat for the Prophet ﷺ, and for us we cannot do a very simple thing. Meaning when we see a woman, we don't lower our eyes. Our eyes raise. Our eyes will go higher. Our eyes will look up. Is this what the Prophet ﷺ is showing us? No. Is this what the mashayikh are teaching us? No. They are saying, protect yourselves. Just following on very quickly from last week is, obviously we talked about how a person being placed in any circumstances. For example, he has now financial difficulty. What does he do? The very first thing he will do is he will use his own means. I want to buy something I use Zishan as an example, I'm sure he remembers. If I want to buy something for £10 and I need £15, I will, obviously Zishan, I'm sure he's on hand, inshallah. He will say, here's £5. But before I go to him, I'm going to double check my bank account, or is there any other means? Can I get a bank loan? Can I get this loan? Can I get that loan? Because I want it now. I'm going to check what's in my own means before I ask somebody else. So if I cannot get any of that, then I will ring Zishan. I'll say, Zishan, oh, have you got that fiver? For example. And he'll say, oh, maybe he says, oh, I haven't got it. Or he says, oh, I can't give it to you today. And then I ask somebody else. I'll keep asking around. And everyone says, oh, he'll never pay us back. We can't give him £5. At that point, he collapses. He realizes that I cannot get that £5. Meaning, someone that is in dire need, desperation. Obviously, £5, I'm sure a person can live without something for £5. He can miss his Dixies for the day. I'm sure that's fine. Or he can miss his Chunkies. But something on a larger scale, in terms of he's completely hopeless and helpless. He's been abandoned by his family, or he has something very severe. Then at that moment, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will put him through something. Put him through immense difficulty. Where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will slowly but surely show him that I am the Rabb and I am the Master. And it will be difficulty in that part, meaning those 15-20 minutes or 15-20 minutes in terms of time, when we compare this worldly life into the akhirah. But in reality, maybe it might be years and months and years before he overcomes this difficulty Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala puts him through. That's just a quick summary from last week. And what happens is a person, when he finally applies himself to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, realizing there is no other help and support, he finds himself in this state after he cannot get any other support, and he is now in complete desperation. And the mashayikh teaches that when a person submits to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and his mashayikh, he inherits untainted knowledge and wisdom when he submits completely. When speaking, he speaks purely for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, for the sake of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he embodies his teacher his mashayikh. As they call it in Sunnah, aqwal and afwal. Actions and sayings are all in the Sunnah. Aqwal, meaning the action, the saying, and afwal, the action. You look at, we just talked about some of the actions of the Sahaba in terms of their relationship with the Prophet ﷺ. We should be as though imitating this relationship and love. But who do we imitate it to? That is where the teacher is necessity. Because that is your practice with them, so you can be ready to sit in the presence of the Prophet ﷺ. No one should ever say La to the teacher, no. Never ever. Anything they have addressed or assigned or given a role to somebody or given an authority to somebody, no one should turn his back on that person. Because that is your reflection of your relationship with the teacher. Meaning that if I could say no to them, I would. Meaning I disagree with you some portion. I'm not going to say it, but my afwal show that I don't agree with your opinion, ya Shaykh or whatever. This is where you see the Shaykh has a duty to purify us, to show us there is a way to the Prophet ﷺ, to show us the tazkiyatul nafs. If we ever think that we can do it ourselves, that's fine. You go do it yourself. Show others the path to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But I can tell you now is that it has such wisdom and such depth, you will live your entire lifetime and still not know. So you will still not know. When a person comes and asks, I want to embark upon the path to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and what happens is he actually will then say, it comes for an update, and he sees that, okay, imagine when you go to the teacher and you say, this is now the doctor. Imagine the teacher as the doctor. And what happens with the doctor is that if you have a pain anywhere, if you have a sickness, if you have coronavirus or anything, if you go to doctor and say, oh, Dr. G, I'm not well today. Dr. G will say, oh, what's up? Which symptoms have you got? And this is one thing that wisdom comes along, where how I need to be and how I need to behave. I think this is maybe spilling. I think something, inshallah. So obviously, wisdom comes, intellect, adab, everything comes into play. It comes, you go to doctor, say, Dr. G, I'm ill, I've got some sickness. He's going to say, okay, what's the symptoms? A person might have sore throat, he might have a cough, he might have a flu, he might have some eye infection, he might have some illnesses in his body. He say, oh, I feel a pain in my stomach. The doctor knows I need to check the stomach now. There are times as well where a person, the doctor will need to examine further to really find the root of the problem, the cause, and help find an extraction to cure you. Remember, we are all sick. I am sick. We are all sick spiritually. We have spiritual diseases we cannot define and we cannot understand. We have takabbur, we have jealousy, we have arrogance, we have hatred, we have animosity, we have all kinds of diseases, which the Prophet ﷺ has negated and cursed, and told us of its of the result of these, adopting these spiritual diseases, of having these, and not seeking the cure. So on a physical sense, we go to the doctor, say, oh doctor, we're sick. Spiritually is that, yes, people may not die, they might die in that state, they might not die of arrogance. They might get killed for arrogance, or they might, obviously you see sometimes in wars and things. But then sometimes doctor will do further examination, further test, and see that there's something within you that even yourself did not know. Or maybe, and obviously what Sayyidina Abdul Qadir Jilani is saying is that over time you will be experiencing, and this root, this problem will stem. It will stem out of your heart. It will stem out of your mouth. It will stem out of your eyes. It will stem out of your mind. It will stem out of your spirit. Because we have not ripped that root out. Whoever, for example, someone who does gardening and he has a lot of weeds and a lot of plants growing, unnecessary plants growing, weed killer is not sufficient. You can spray it, it will die for maybe a few weeks, but it will return because the root is not destroyed. What a person needs to do is they need to dig below this plant and they will see roots. If you look very carefully and observe, you will see that these roots are attaching itself to other roots within other plants. So the roots are that clever, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala designed them in such a way they will root and go such far, and they will. That's why sometimes when you rip it, they have a little bit of restraint. What is our spiritual state? Imagine if I say to you, right now it's time to rip off that root. Rip that root out. Imagine the difficulty. It has restraint. Obviously, the old saying is that old habits die hard. They don't die easy. If I plant a beautiful flower, it comes out like that. Even the soil comes out with it. If I say here's a weed plant that it has restraint, it's like I want to be here, and that's how it will be. That's how it will behave. And that's what sicknesses we have inside us. They're rooted inside. When he reaches the state that is ripped out, the servant passes beyond material needs and behavior. He's not seeking material needs. Some of this stuff might fly past your head. It might even go beyond your... You might not even understand it, but just listen, inshallah. I know one time what happened is Bayan was given something, so I didn't understand one word. But as long as he was there, that's fine. You just be here, inshallah. Try to be here. Sometimes the word will go woof, right past your mind and you don't know what's going on. Sometimes a person might even fall asleep because sometimes it's too much for the person to take. Obviously not when I'm speaking, but sometimes it can happen. E.g., when you see people saving for years and years and they die, so sometimes it's that you see people, they'll save and save and save money for years and years and years and years. You know, Kanjusi style, they do this. They will save for, they'll be alive for 70 years, they'll save for 50 years. 59 years, they'll be saving every penny. Just necessities, even Asda whoops, this is what they will get. The stuff like this. Obviously, there's nothing wrong if it's fine, but you see, it's the richest people who get this food sometimes. And what happens is, these people, they save and save and save and save, and then they die with those savings. So they'll have like 100 grand, 150 grand in their bank account. And you ask them, your Buzurgo, your elder, what are you saving for? You go, I'm just saving. He gets josh out of saving. I'm not saying you shouldn't save. Obviously, a person should save. But you shouldn't put yourself in difficulty as well. Sometimes a person has like hundreds and thousands of pounds. His car's breaking down every day. You know, he's driving around in a micro or something. If that's all you can afford, that's fine. But what I'm trying to say is, you put yourself in unnecessary difficulty when there was no need. So what happens is, when he's been saving, then what happens is he saved and saved. He thinks I've done a good thing. He might have a number of children. All his children are kicking off for inheritance. His children are now fighting, this is my portion, that's my portion. This is why it's sunnah to write a will. You know, it's sunnah to write the will, meaning the Prophet ﷺ, they would say, some narrations would say that they would update their death will and the passing will every night almost. They would regularly check it and frequently update it. And then now he sees nothing but the truth. So when he's experienced all of these problems, all these mushkilat, now he sees nothing but the truth. Al-Haq is present. He now sees, now people see me for my reality. Now maybe I've had my eyes shut all my life and I thought this carpet was black, and I now finally open my eyes and realize it's brown or peach. If you color blind, I don't know what color it'll be, maybe green. But if you have, do you see these things? Our eyes are shut. Someone put the wool over our eyes, and we're going through life like this. If I say to you, Saif, I got a challenge for you. Close your eyes and walk home. What would you do? Would you probably get hit by a car, walk into a lamppost or something, then he'll be knocked out on the floor, lamppost is there, knocked out. What happens is, maybe you do know the road, I don't know. But what if I say to you, okay, have your eyes closed, that's fine. Maybe you're blind. Some people are blind. And I say, I'll get someone to hold your hand and walk you home. Would you feel safer? You know, a person who's blind, some people have them guide dogs, don't they? Have you seen them guide dogs? Blind people, they have guide dogs. We are spiritually blind and trying to guide ourselves. Just imagine. We're going to walk into shaitan's path and to jinnat's path, into evil people's path, and we don't know. We can't distinguish between the two. So I'm just trying to emphasize the point further, that don't be such a person that I can do things myself, I can guide myself, when a person can't. He cannot guide himself. Because when reality strikes and he realizes that, oh, I banged my head on a lamppost, I've fallen over a curb, I'm getting hit by a car now, maybe he'll die as well in this state of blindness. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, whoever is blind in this life is blind in the next life. So have some form of a guide, have some form of a route, a path laid out to you. And then what happens is he becomes totally convinced in the divine unity. After all of this struggle, after now falling over, collapsing, dying and getting back up and getting knocked out by shaitan, then he realizes that, oh, it's only really Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who's present. And then what they further emphasize and say that, I'll just mention it here, word for word, is that there is no dynamic or static force apart from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. No dynamic, meaning multi-dimensional, or static, meaning something that is still, apart from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And no good or evil. Sometimes you might think something is bad. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, what you might think is beneficial for you may be harmful, and what you think is harmful for you may be beneficial to you. You should never have my own aql understanding. That is not our job to understand what is good for myself. I have never, maybe enough sometimes get better of me, but I can't remember or recall a time where I have thought that something is better for me without mashwara. It's been a while at least. And I feel like I am more in a safer position than where I was in the past. So I'm sure that many of you can have and relate to this similar thing. No gain or loss. No giving or withholding, no opening or closing, no death or life, no honor or disgrace except in the hand of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, meaning their power, their authority. His status comes to resemble that of a suckling baby in its nurse's arms. I will repeat this to you one more time. Many of you will understand, many of you won't. When he comes to know that it's only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who is the master, and I am the slave. When this reality hits him, when it strikes throughout his body, he will say, this person's status comes to resemble that of a suckling baby in its nurse's arms, of a corpse in the hands of its washer of the dead, of the dead, or of a ball on the receiving ending of a polo player's mallet, which means they used to play polo in the time of Sayyidina Abdul Qadir Jilani. So, when I say to you a suckling baby, if you see a baby, it is useless. A baby cannot walk, can't talk. It can't even tell you that I'm hungry, can't change its own nappies, it can't feed itself. That's when the real tawakkul will descend upon you. The real, maybe tawakkul is already descending, but the reality of the tawakkul will make sense. The reality of relying upon Allah, that will come to its, you will come to know of its reality. Now you will experience that divine and that intimate relationship and connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Of a corpse in the hands of a washer of the dead, meaning you are like nothing. You are saying to your Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I am nothing. Whatever the dead body, whatever the washer of the dead body does to the body doesn't matter. Obviously, yes, there are sunnahs and wajibat a person needs to perform, this is just in a metaphorical sense, is that if we are just static and dead, and the mashayikh, imagine our teacher can just do whatever they want with us. Meaning, now you travel to this country, now you give dawah in this place, now you give the bayan, now you do this, now you do that, now mentor others. We will be fully receptive and prepared to learn and listen. Meaning, when we become as though a blank, empty piece of paper, write on it. Meaning, you're telling someone else to write on it, not yourself. Gone forth from his own self, out into his master's work, he now sees nothing but that master and his work. He neither hears nor compares hence from any other source, or meaning he has no other source. He has no other source other than the source of the master. And he does not compare. And when his speech is what he listens to, and his knowledge is what he comes to know, meaning he has no other knowledge except what he's taught. He does not have he doesn't listen to anything else other than the knowledge of his teacher or his master. His favors he enjoys, through his nearness he prospers, through his proximity he is graced and honored, and by his promise he is pleased and reassured. With Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala he feels at peace, and in his discourse, and in his discourse he takes delight. What is he saying is that, remember, on the spiritual path, there's annihilation of three. There's annihilation of the mashayikh, meaning fana fi shaykh, then fana fi rasul, and fana fi Allah. How you will need to first go through the door of the mashayikh in order to get all this, what I'm talking about. Meaning the ultimate pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. From all others, while all others recoils and shrinks away, in remembrance of him he finds refuge and support. In the Almighty and Glorious he puts his faith in him. He places his trust. And by the light of his awareness he is guided. As he wraps and clothes himself therein, strange marvels of his science discovers, and of the secrets of his power he is apprised. To him he listens, and from him he learns. Then for all of this he offers praise, gives thanks, and turns to prayer. I've read it word for word because it's so beautiful, so beautifully put by the mashayikh, that when you have fully submitted to the mashayikh and teachers, is that you will ultimately be led to a door of guidance, of reassurance, of pleasure, of delight, of comfort, of ease. Anything that you think is so beneficial, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give you this in this life and in the next. As many people say, it is not, you hear the pious and righteous people saying, is that we do not determine richness by wealth, but the richness of his heart. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that I do not look at the beauty of the face, I look at the beauty of the heart. You will see that if you have a beautiful heart, you see many people have a good brain but a bad heart. Many people will be like, they won't be appealing to you, but they have such a good heart and you could spend hours and days with them. This is the spiritual path, well, part of it. And if one embarks upon it and does learn about it, he will be successful. He will be successful. No matter what anyone will try and say to him, he will achieve in this life and in the next. One should never despair, oh, I am looking for something, like we talked about at the very beginning. Nothing is determined in the sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by numbers. It is by sincerity and a good heart and commitment and steadfastness. And many other things come into it, but those are the main ones that I can think of. So, if anyone has any questions they would like to ask in regards to what I've mentioned, Brother Shaza will come round with the microphone. And if not, and don't be shy to ask as well, because obviously sometimes people, I want to ask questions and they forget and they go home and then contemplate. So ask now, and if I do not have the answer, I can definitely get it for you. Inshallah. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك ونشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت وأتوب إليك.